Hello, I'm Michael Atkinson. Welcome to Pryme Time, a podcast where the aim is to talk about workplace health and safety because we want to make the workplace a safer place. Joining us today is Brad Houlihan from Pryme. Brad, how you going, mate?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me.
Mate, it's good to be here. This week we're going to talk about the topic of dehydration and how it affects workers in hot workplaces. And when I think dehydration, I think, a long day in the sun at sport, that sort of thing. It's not something I normally associate with workplace. Going back all of our years of knowing each other, when I think of Brad and dehydration, I think of not just having a few too many beers, but I think of squincher, but it's much, much broader than that. I guess as a starting point, why is dehydration, what is it, and why is it a serious problem on the workplace?
Well, mate, you only have to look, we're, exactly as you said, we're sitting here in a nice, comfortable office. It's, maybe 20 degrees, it's perfect. But to a lot of people that are out and doing, hard work in the Australian conditions, these guys, I take my hat off to them because they're out there in Australian summer, even if it's not summer in Australia, it's 30 degrees, 40 degrees, 45 degrees. They're in their PPE gear, they're sweating, they're working hard, they're, riggers, they're doing all the, boiler makers, they're doing all the hard stuff that no one wants to do. And, mate, they're losing more fluids than they're putting back into their body. And before you know it, it'll hit you on the back end and you'll be dehydrated and you won't even know. So it's very, very common in the workplace. So it's definitely something which we're educating our workers to try and improve, but something that happens, every day.
I'm someone who's terribly hydrated. I don't drink enough water. My wife's always in me. I don't drink enough water. But water's not just the solution, is it?
No.
So how do you make people on the work site, people you work with, people you supply to, how do you make them think about hydration as an important factor on the work site and that it's more than just having a bottle of water with you?
Yeah, well, mate, it's exactly that. Most of the time, if you're feeling thirsty, it's already too late. You're already dehydrated. It's very common as well. A quick way to identify if you are dehydrated is having a look at the colour of your urine. As you said,
mine's very yellow, mate.
Yeah, mate, that's no good. That's probably after a couple of too many drinks on the weekend. But, mate, a good way to look is look straight. If it's clear and you can see through it, it's a good sign that you're that you're hydrated. But if it's a darker colour and it doesn't smell that great, it's pretty evident that you're gone past the stage of dehydration and you need to hydrate straight away.
So what are the dangers? Because it's not just about needing to drink more water and you might get a headache, but there's broader things, there's broader dangers, more significant dangers.
Yeah, mate, 100%. Well, the Safe Work Australia put a great document together, managing heat when you're on the site, and it talks about all the common signs, everything from being dizzy, losing concentration, cramps, everything that's not fun. And when you start to look at what happens on an industrial site where you've got 5,000 kilo trucks running around, you've got guys operating heavy machinery, it starts to play a pretty dangerous picture where the common side effects being people fainting. Again, operating those vehicles, you've got workers side by side, and not only you're putting yourself in danger, but also the lives of your fellow workers. And this of course can all be prevented too.
How do you prevent it? Like, that's a great segue because I mentioned water before. The old school thinking would have been having a bottle of water there, maybe grab a sip when you're on your lunch break, smoko, maybe at the end of the day, scull half a bottle or something like that. How do you prevent it?
Mate, well, again, it's the old saying we're saying earlier, the old saying, she'll be right. It's just simply not that anymore. And you'll go on, and we're fortunate enough with Squincher that we've, gone on to some pretty aggressive working sites, and you've heard some pretty big stories about dehydration. And water's just not enough, and people will be, you hear the stories, putting so much water back into my body, but it just wasn't working. And the reasons why is because as you're sweating, you're actually losing electrolytes. And those electrolytes play very critical roles in your body's function, your organ function, your central nervous system. You're looking at, say, your muscle function, so you're cramping. So when you start to put those into effect, the water just doesn't have that. So you need to put electrolytes back into your body, either through something of the way of food, which is pretty hard to do when you're your 8 or 9, 10 hour shift. But the other main way to do it is through fluid, through electrolytes, yeah.
Can you just deep dive into that a little bit more? Like, what is it about Squincher that makes it the perfect product for hydration, and particularly on a work site? Because as I've said a couple of times, water's the old thinking, that sort of thing. But why is Squincher more effective? Why should people have Squincher available to them?
Mate, it's a good question. And the first thing is just trying to get the people who are working there doing all the hard work, get them to actually, to consume the product. Because if you've got something that tastes bad, and you with a beer too, that's what I see on the vodka lime sodas and those lolly water drinks. If it doesn't taste good, no one's going to drink it, right? So that's why I always say try the product first. And if you like the taste of it, you're halfway there. We've got a couple of good flavors that you can try as well, and we always encourage people to try it. But mate, the first thing with Squincher, why Squincher, is the taste, the palatability. We've got 5 great flavors you can choose from. The biggest thing is the ingredients, so actually what's inside of it. You can consume the product safely. It's proven, it's tested on a wide number of sites to basically do what it says it's going to do. It's been the market leader in the industrial sector globally for a long time, but particularly here in Australia, since '99. So the big thing for us is that we've got a lot of credibility behind the product. People with great records, doctors, nurses, they've back Squincher and continue to back it, because for us, you guys are doing the hard work, or they're doing the hard work. The product's got to do what it says it's going to do.
We've got this great cooler here, a big yellow cooler. That's easy to identify on the worksite, but that's got to sit somewhere pretty stable. Maybe it's on the back of the ute, maybe it's on the ground floor. On work sites these days, it's not just 1, maybe 2 levels. Like there's big construction sites that, are multi-stories, that sort of thing. So how do people stay hydrated when they're lynched up, way up high? They're on, way up high on a construction site.
The good thing about Squincher is the unique packaging it comes in. So whether you've got a truck full of workers that you might strap a 20-litre cooler to, if you're an individual out by yourself, you might have, say, sugar-free options through a quick sticks where you have 1 water bottle and you go away. And again, that's the unique opportunity with Squincher, is that you've got, depending on what you do for work, again, there are pack options for everyone. A frozen electrolyte option as well. So if you've got a freezing capability, you can put your freezer in. We've also got a fast pack, where the pack becomes your cup and you rip it up and add water. So depending on the individual and depending on what they're doing, there's packs and formulations for every job site.
One thing I'm fascinated about is the mentality around it and that sort of thing. And it's probably something that's put at the back of the mind. A lot of people's that old school thinking that the things you need to protect yourself from on work sites are falls or being hit and that sort of stuff. And that's something that we'll cover later. But when you're trying to address the issue of hydration and the importance of it and the dangers of dehydration, what's the feedback or the pullback or the pushback you get from clients and people when you're trying to educate them?
I think the biggest thing, Akko, is just the culture, changing the culture. And it's great because, again, we go around, we do a lot of work with, toolbox talks, through sites big and small. And we talk to the workers and educate the workers about the importance of hydration and, what it does to your body, how it's a 24/7, it's a 24/7 plan for your body. You can't just do it when you're on work. You've got to hydrate, all day round. It's just changing that culture, and we're very lucky that Australia's starting to educate their people a lot more and building a safer working environment, building a better culture. You see too often you work onto a site and they'll have information about safety, things about your hard hats or your boots, as you said. But again, changing that culture to setting up hydration stations, setting up effective hydration plans for the workers, whether it be 3 or 4 scheduled stops to hydrate throughout the day. Simple things like urinal charts to just constantly reinforce that message about the importance of hydration and keeping each other safe on site.
It doesn't mean you can't have a few beers at the end of the day, does it?
Oh, of course not. It makes it all worthwhile, right?
It's such a fascinating topic because I think it is a really important part of the workplace. It's not something that should be just thought about as an additive to sport anymore. You need to be hydrated on the work site. I can see why people would listen to what you've got to say and be like, yeah, right, this is something we need to have as part of our work site. Brad, it's been good having you on here.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate it, Akko.
Another great episode of Pryme Time. We thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast from, because subscribing means you won't miss an episode. Give us a rating too. It just boosts it up the list a little bit more, and it lets other people know that it's out there and they can catch this stuff as well. Feel free to visit the website, www.pryme.com.au. If you've got any feedback, jump on the socials, LinkedIn or Facebook. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Tell us what you'd like to hear. Send us some questions and we'll address those in future podcasts as well. Until next time, thanks for listening to Pryme Time.